Our scripture reading this morning is taken from the Gospel of Jesus Christ according to Luke. And I'm reading now from chapter 10, verses 30 to 37. Jesus once told this parable to a respected teacher of the law. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers who stripped him, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, while traveling, came near him, and when he saw him, he was moved with pity. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, having poured oil and wine on them. Then he put him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said, "Take care of him, and when I come back, I will repay you whatever more you spend." Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? The teacher of the law said, "The one who showed him mercy." Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise." What I just read is called the parable of the Good Samaritan. And I'm sure most of you have heard the story before. In fact, I'm sure many of you have heard that story so many times that you're dead certain of its meaning. You're convinced, as I was, that the story is only about religious hypocrisy. You're convinced that the parable is meant to be an indictment of those who profess one kind of conduct but actually live out another. You know, the do as I say, not as I do crowd. After all, you might say, look at the characters Jesus uses to make his point. A priest and a Levite. Who better to model good behavior than the clergy, right? But in the parable, these clergymen are hypocrites. They say they love their neighbors, but in reality they're willing to pass them by on the other side when nobody's looking. These clergymen are insincere, deceitful, and willing to set aside their religious code whenever it suits them. Now, I admit that religious hypocrisy is a valuable lesson to take away from this parable. However, it may not be the only lesson that Jesus intended. This morning, I'm going to take this well-known parable, and I'm going to turn it upside down. And I'm going to invite you to explore with me a spiritual teaching that lies so deep below the surface that it's easy to miss. The really cunning and subtle thing about the parable of the Good Samaritan is that it may not be about the danger of religious hypocrisy only, as much as it's about the danger of religious sincerity. Let me repeat. The parable may not be about the danger of religious hypocrisy as much as it is about the danger of religious sincerity. So let me explain. In Judaism, as in lots of other religions in the world, there are objects and peoples and races and foodstuffs that many believe will make a person unclean or impure. For the Jews in Jesus' time, the Gentiles, or the non-Jews, were impure in this sense. As a Jew, you could not touch a Gentile. You could not even eat with a Gentile without gaining a kind of spiritual infection, which then had to be cleansed. And as a Jew, you could not touch a dead body, Gentile or otherwise, without being rendered impure and having to be cleansed at the temple. So now, let's take a look at the Jewish priest in our parable story. The priest was going home to Jericho from Jerusalem, where he probably had just finished his bi-weekly duty at the temple. He was riding alone on his donkey on a treacherous road filled with danger. Remember, this is a good man. He's a sincere priest of the Jewish faith. He's going home after his duty at the temple. And there at the side, he sees a body lying motionless